to Live Vedanta, a podcast about simple living and high thinking. Right now, we're continuing our special series on the significance of our Samskaras, a series of talks that Vivekji first delivered in Frederick, Maryland in 2012. In this episode, he discusses the Samskaras associated with childhood and, at the very end, engages in dialogue about the purpose of jnana yajnas and learning closely from a master. Let's tune in.
We have endless stories in our scriptures where the child in the mother's womb is learning what the mother is learning. Whether it's Abhimanyu, correct? Prince Arjuna's son, who learned that war strategy, or Shukra Maharaj, who was born realized because his father was Vedvyasa, writing Gita, writing Mahabharata, writing the Puranas, writing Srimad Bhagavatam, writing the Brahma Sutras. Naturally, he's going to be realized. Even while we were studying in the ashram, 2005 to 2007, we had 3 pregnant ladies who came to the ashram and lived there for 1 month each. They were at Vedic chanting at 5:30. They were at Upanishad class at 7. They were at Sanskrit class. God knows why they were at Sanskrit class at 10 o'clock. They came to every class because they understood that the way that the environment they're exposed to is the environment that their child will invoke. So even now people live these samskaras, which is why we need to know about them. Simanto Nayana. First samskara was Garbha Dhanam. Pumsavana. Then we just studied Simanto Nayana. And now the fourth is Jata Karma. Jata Karma is the fourth samskara. The first 3 samskaras we studied were called prenatal samskaras. That being is still in the mother's womb. Jata Karma is a combination of prenatal and childhood. Now we're shifting towards the childhood samskaras. And I'll explain why. First of all, this samskara happens when the fetus is born, is exposed to the world that you and I are living in. That's when Jata Karma happens. And at that time, the father goes to the child and feeds the child. What is the child fed? Honey, ghee, and yogurt. Good. I'm glad that some of us are aware of this. Why honey? Why do we put honey in our chai? Or agave. Now we put agave, right? To sweeten that chai, to sweeten that dessert. In the same way, the father gives this to the child saying, may all of your life experiences be sweet. Why ghee? We say people that eat lots of ghee, right? And here too. But that's the way Indians think. We were just joking about that, right? When you gain weight, that means you're healthy. That means you're healthy and you're rich. So ghee, may you be strong. May all of your life experiences be strong. And yogurt, why dhai? Ask any South Indian. I share this because my wife is South Indian. And at the end of each meal, because we spend every Sunday night that I'm in not traveling, with my in-laws. And when we have dinner on Sunday or Monday, then they always look at me with great concern and say, do you want curd rice? And I look at them with great concern and say, no. And then they look at me with great concern and confusion. What do you mean you don't want curd rice? I only want curd rice if there's chilies, if there's pickle. That's why I want curd rice. But essentially, it's to bring that serenity to one. It's a cooling effect. Yogurt. May all of your life experiences be serene. This is why the father feeds the child. Now again, in Peoria, One of the people in the audience was a pediatrician. So as soon as she heard honey, she thought botulism. So can you still give honey? I said, this is symbolic, okay? It doesn't take a spoon and opens the child's mouth and give honey. Symbolically, it takes a fraction and just puts it on the child's lips. It can be sugar, it can be agave, it doesn't matter. See, even when we do bhog, right, to Bhagwan, some people take that and put it in Bhagwan's mouth, right? And what we're traditionally in a puja vidhi, we take that food and we give it to Bhagwan like this. Om pranaya swaha, om apanaya swaha, correct? May you ingest it, may it be digested. And this is important to know. For those who have been to Sandipani recently, I would say the last few years, Bhagwan Ganesha, who's now behind a glass casing, was not like that. While I studied, Bhagwan Ganesha was not behind that glass. But so many people came to Jagdishwar temple, which is great, but so many people also rubbed his feet, which has now been deteriorated. That stone is chipping away now. So they have to put it behind a glass casing or they have to change the feet. And with a murti, you're not supposed to fix parts of the murti. If a murti is cracked, you can't install that murti then. So we should understand the symbolism that if I bow my head before Lord Ganesha's feet, I'm not going to get more or less blessings than if I rub his feet too. It's not a lamp. There's no genie is going to come out. So here, the symbolism needs to be understood. And I say this is a combination samskara because the father feeds this child while the umbilical cord is not there. Let me rewind. I keep mixing this up. The father feeds the child when the umbilical cord is still there. Still there, not when it's not there. So the point is that it's a mixture of both because the child hasn't independently eaten yet because the umbilical cord is still there. When the umbilical cord falls, that's when it's a real independent birth of that child. So the father still feeds the child while the umbilical cord is there. Now, to this point is, if the father's not there, then that child this samskara, this jata karma is done 11 days later. And how insightful our rishis were that they chose 11 days, because biologically, that's how much time it takes for the umbilical cord to really fall off. See, this came thousands of years ago. It brings me great joy when today's scientists and today's researchers confirm what our rishis have been teaching for thousands of years. Great joy. On February 26th of 2009, the Ontario government, which is the province I live in, they said, if you drive with a cell phone, with a handheld device, and drive at the same time, that's a $155 ticket and 3 demerit points. And when I saw that sign, I thought, thank you, Government of Ontario. What Lord Krishna has been teaching for 6,000 years, that you can only have one thought at a time, you all know now. And you spent millions of dollars trying to understand this, and so many compromised lives. Right? In Gita, how clearly does Lord Krishna say, one thought at a time? That's what a deepa, why the mind is compared to a deepa. Because that flicker is so fast, it looks like it's solid. But it's only one flicker at a time. Our thoughts are moving so fast that it's as if there's a mind there. But we can only have one thought at a time. Which is also why I laugh at my own life experiences, that I paid $20,000 a year to go to business school to learn how to multitask. And then I went to Sandipani and studied for free where they told me that's all wrong. During this Yamunotri camp too, when I asked him, why do you think the father is told to do jata karma 11 days after the samskara? And so, what very logical young adults do, and they said, it's because the father probably fainted when he saw the baby. So they couldn't regain consciousness, so they had to wait 11 days. That is the fourth samskara. Now the fifth, and I'll just introduce it today, is namakarana. Namakarana, when the child is given a name. And the beauty of the way the rishis thought, why didn't they give a name right at birth, like is often forced in hospitals now? Because back in the day, and it even happens now, that child sometimes passes away. And when we give a name to an entity, that attachment develops. Without a name, there's less attachment. And our thinkers knew that that baby may not survive. Who knows? There wasn't medical equipment like we now have, or technology, blah, blah, blah. They're aware of that. And so they said, let's give a name after some time, after the child's health has stabilized. The best way to understand this samskara is to study Tulsi Ramayana. In Tulsi Ramayana, there's also another Ramayana, but it's not called Ramayana, it's called Namayana, where Tulsidas Ji spends huge sections just talking about the greatness of Bhagwan's name. On and on and on he goes about Bhagwan's name. And the point being, some of the points Tulsidas Ji makes, Bhagwan Rama freed thousands, 10,000s, hundreds of thousands, millions. Bhagwan Rama's name has freed tens of millions, hundreds of millions. That form can only go in certain places, but the name can go anywhere. We'll try a short experiment. I want everyone to think about cast curtain light. And I just made that up, right? There's nothing that can go with it. But if I say Baskin Robbins, automatically the flavors start coming, correct? Not 31, 301. What if I say, let's go negative, let's go Shishupal. Thoughts of Shishupal come on, and Lord Krishna merging, taking in Shishupal. When I say Lord Rama, what thoughts come up? I've just used two Sanskrit letters, Ra and Ma. But how much transformation happens in the mind? Before his form comes up, his name is an invitation for him to come. And Guruji has used it in such a sense. He said, if one calls out to Bhagwan, Bhagwan has no choice but to come. Like a salesperson. If a salesperson keeps on ringing the doorbell or keeps on calling, eventually we pick up the phone and it says, don't call or don't come, right? But we picked up the phone, and as soon as we see Bhagwan, realization. Once I have Bhagwan's darshan, now I'm done. So call out of hatred, call out of love, call out of sorrow, call out of happiness, call out to the divine. Whatever name. Lord Shiva, Devi, Lord Ganesha, doesn't matter. They're all simply names and forms of Brahman. Janma pati iti japa. That which protects us from being born is japa. So now the question is, why do we need protection from being born? Because we've just entered Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is 43,200 years long. We've just entered Kali Yuga. And when one reads the newspaper, one has to just put it down. You know what to do. It's intense. The wars, the actions of the soldiers, what's happening on soccer fields now. Right? Where is the peace? Where is the love? So the best thing to do is get realized and get out. Truly, what other strategy is there? By taking Bhagwan's name, with every name I clean, it's one wipe of that mirror. And the more I take Bhagwan's name, the more that mirror gets cleaned, and I realize, hey, I'm just calling out to myself. This is who I am. This is my nature. And I qualify this by saying I'm an optimist, and I'm saying get realized and get out. We give great importance to a name And which name do we give most importance to? Our own, of course. Everyone's favorite word is their own name. So if we're going to take someone's name again and again and again, a child's in this case, let it be one that inspires those positive thoughts. Now, when I shared this in Peoria, one couple who had not given their children one of Bhagwan's names, they were very disturbed by this. They're like, so what are we supposed to do now? Do we change our kids' names? But their kids' names were qualities. Like Vivek. Vivek is not everything is Bhagwan's name, but Vivek is not a name of Bhagwan. It is a quality of Bhagwan. That ability to discriminate between the real and the unreal. So I suggested is connect your child's name, which is that quality, to Bhagwan then. That's the idea. Taking Lord Rama again. A common saying in our scriptures is, not in our scriptures, but those who study and share insights into the scriptures, learn from Lord Krishna and live like Lord Rama. Because Lord Rama came as Manava Dharma. He came as a human being. He didn't come as Bhagwan. He is Bhagwan. He always knew he was Bhagwan. Everyone knew he was Bhagwan, but he came for you and I as a human being. This is why he went to the Gurukul to study. This is why he shed tears. That's why he only had one wife. Lord Krishna had how many? 16,008 wives. Lord Rama only had one. Mother Sita was so loyal to Lord Rama, despite all of the threats from Ravana. But her mind, she was advised, ekapati vrata. That means not just even, let alone touching another man, one is not even allowed to think of another man. He came as a man. Lord Krishna didn't come as a man at all. Right from the time he was born, everything was magical about him. Everything. We connect to Lord Rama in this way, that he has lived an ideal life. Whenever we think of Lord Rama, we think of that idealism, the ideal brother, the ideal king, the ideal husband. So let us think of the quality associated with the names that we have to connect it to Bhagwan. That is the significance of Namakarna. The quality and the name can never be separated. They cannot be. And that's why even in our Srimad Bhagavatam, we have the story of Ajamila, who named his son Narayana, but never thought his son was Narayana. And at the time of he's approaching death, he calls out to Narayana, his son, calls out to his biological son. And so he's about to pass, and Yamas, Dutas, Yamas, who is the controller, the Lord of Death, they show up at his bed. But before they get there, who's already there? Narayana's messengers. And Yama's messenger is saying, hey, what are you doing here? And Narayana's messenger is saying, what are you doing here? He called for Narayana. We're taking him to Narayana. What control, what jurisdiction do you have over here? And then they all started fighting. And the point in this, and I'm not going to say it's a story, because as soon as we say story, we think it didn't happen. The story in this episode is that even if that devotion is not there, there's power in that name. When Ratnakar was told, take the name of the ideal man, take the name of Rama, what came out of his mouth? Mara. Mara in Hindi means dead or die. He's saying die, die, die. But in time that evolves into Rama, Rama, Rama. He had no devotion. He was the most tamasic person. But that mundane name turned into a meaningful name because of the Lord's grace. This is why Gurudev says, when it comes to meditation, we have to not only be sincere, we have to be regular. Regularity turns us develops that sincerity. So in the same way, just call out the Lord's name. Our Acharya Gorang said that, why do we say bless you when someone sneezes? See, back in the day, if I sneezed, that means I was sick. I may have had the plague. And I may not get better. So if I sneeze, hey, bless me that I don't pass away. Or I heard someone say, when you sneeze, it means your soul is trying to escape your body. A reaction in the lungs is trying to cause my soul to escape my body. Right? Bless you. So he said, instead of saying bless you, take the Lord's name. Say Narayana. Say Shiva. Say Mata. Whatever it is. And so even when these biological functions are happening, if we take the Lord's name, we'll remember that more. One of our chicks was saying his practicum, his idea to be lived this week is to do Brahmarpanam even while driving, right before driving. And the idea is when I eat, I consume food, correct? I consume organic materials to sustain this body. When we drive, we also consume fuel. Correct? And it's for a purpose, to go to work or to come to satsang. So do Brahmarpanam before driving. Why not? Well, we can only do it before eating? Brahmarpanam should be done always. The Lord's name should be taken always. So one of our samskaras is namakarana. And I'll share some more thoughts on this tomorrow. Each one of these samskaras gets better. That's what's awesome about these samskaras. Like, these really don't apply to us at this point. But when we get to Upanayanam, so much to talk about. Vivaha, the most important of all of the samskaras is Vivaha. And I'm not saying that based on experience. I'm basing that on the scriptures. But I'm not going to tell you why. You have to come. So now in the remaining 15 minutes, if anyone has any questions on what was shared in this evening or this morning or anything in life in general, then I'll try to answer those. I believe Swami Vivekananda's Jayanti was January 15th, and I believe it was his 150th, January 12th, I think, and it was his 150th Jayanti. Something significant. And I was thinking to myself on this day, imagine Swami Vivekananda had access to the technology we now have access to. Imagine he had a Twitter account, how many people would follow him, right? Imagine he had email. But then I was also thinking about how technology is, like everything in life, is a blessing and a curse. Because the more people that email him, that he can email, are the same people that can email him then. So, and how can one keep up with it? So technology is a blessing. I can learn about Vishnu Sahasranama and Puja Vidhi and Gayatri Mantra, everything. I can just type it into YouTube, type it into Google. All of our batchmates, including Anand Uncle and Pramilaji, so we are on a Yahoo group. And so if you send an email, it goes to everyone. So I once got an email from one of our batchmates, and he watched this Tamil movie. And the hero and the villain were in a dialogue. And the villain says to the hero, I'm going to hit you so hard that even Google won't be able to find you. But there's no substitute for that face-to-face interaction. There is not. And that's why when we depend on recordings, when we depend on videos, if I can't access that person physically because they're too far or I'm not well, fine. But if I can get to that person who is speaking, teaching, there is no substitute for that. We all know recordings. We're driving while we're listening to them. Right? That attention span is not there. Or when we're doing it at home and I'm just going to lie down and listen, right? Then gone. Oh yeah, I listened to a 1-hour lecture last night. I was sleeping for 1 hour last night. And I'll tell you one deeply personal experience that really showed me the importance of this. I went into Sandipani the way that I went into business school. And that is, I am going there thinking this is just another institute of studies. I figured out how high school works. I figured out how undergraduate works. I'm going to figure out how this works too. And so I sat in the back row. As long as I'm close to a speaker, why do I care where I sit? And I sat there with my legs out and I would take my notes and so on. It was 2 months after they had passed. I just had this revelation, and this shows Bhagwan's grace. This sankalpa came into my mind as I walked from the temple to Saraswati Nilayam, our lecture hall. And I thought, let me sit in the front, but not the real front. I'll sit in the second row, because if you sit in the first row, everyone sees what's happening, right? If you adjust your legs and so on. So I sat in the second row, and the experience was totally different. Try to sit as close as possible because there's less distractions, there is more connection. I'm not just saying this so you can see me and sit close to me. Anywhere, any situation. Be near the front. Swami Shantananda had said the same. He had done a satsang for us and we were all writing notes frantically. And he says, what are you all doing? And we just innocently said, we're taking notes, Swamiji, your thoughts are great. He says, but look at me. You have to look at Guruji as he's teaching. That's the whole point of the Gurukul, to develop that connection. And we got it then. So puja vidhi. Puja is inviting Bhagwan from my heart, from your heart, into an icon. It could be a picture, it could be a murti, it could be the padukas, it could be a diya. It can be anything. As long as I can invoke that, it can be anything. That's why one of our steps is avahanam, where I touch my heart with my left hand, I touch the icon with the right, and I say avahanam samarpayami. That I've now taken Bhagwan who lives in me, who enlivens me, and I've invoked him or her into this icon. And just like we treat a guest, see, I'm going to many people's homes, so Purna Kumbha is there, then they offer a seat, then they offer water, food is after that, Chandan Kumkum. Same goes with Bhagwan. Here's a seat, wash your feet, wash your hands, drink something, we take your name, we offer you our best, then we say, Udvasanam. Now you go. You go, but yathasanam punaragamanaya cha. But come back again and again and again. And come back with more blessings. This is the idea. That you've blessed me and my household. Now you go and come back again and again and again. People think, why Ganesha Chaturthi? Why do you waste so much time and energy putting Lord Ganesha into the water? Just keep him. But the idea is go, Bhagwan, and come back again. Our Samvitji, who was our Upacharya, Guruji was our Acharya, Samvitji taught us our secondary classes, Puja, Vidhi, Sanskrit, Vedic chanting. He said that we all love when Lakshmi Mata, we all invoke her for Deepavali, right? We all tell her to come to our home. And when she comes in, what do? Lock the door. Don't go now. But if we don't encourage her to leave, she takes more than what she came with. So we ask her to come deposit inner wealth, outer wealth, go, come back. And this exchange happens. So that door is always supposed to be kept open. Now I want everyone to remember this on Wednesday when you have your Guru Dakshina envelopes. So I'll take your question tomorrow because I had a question this morning that I wanted to give some time to. Deviji, right? So Deviji was asking me about the experience I had before the Overseas Acharyas Conference, where I spent 1 week in Mona. I spent 1 week, 168 hours, in a room by myself, locked from the outside. So, isolation, not solitary confinement, okay? Not jail. I voluntarily went to spend time in solitude. What did I do there? Before I went there, then someone had told me there's 3 purposes that one tends to go to the Hari Om Ashram, not affiliated with Chinmay Mission. Some people go for japa, just japa. Some people go for mananam, and some people go for dhyana. So that tends to be the focus. I went there for mananam. That was my vision behind going to the Monashram. And I would literally just sit in a chair not a chair like this, it was just a lawn chair, and I would just sit looking at the diagonal part of the roof for 2 hours. Just looking and thinking about, who am I? What am I doing here? Am I happy? And fundamental questions. Then after my back would get hurt, I would lie down on the swing. This is in Gujarat. And I would pull myself back and forth on the swing, continuing with the same. Just thinking. And as I'd shared this morning, on Wednesday, because I went in on a Monday, this epiphany happened that if this gentleman, this manager of this ashram, never opens that door, I'll be fine. Because I'm learning that I am the source of happiness. I am happiness, as we discussed today. Why do I need anything else? They're giving me food. I have water. What else is needed? I would appreciate some English books. They kept on giving me Gujarati books. And I'd appreciate an iPod too. It would add to the enlightenment. But even if that's not there, we all have all we need. And we learn that through the rishis call it tapas, we can call it experimentation, where we learn to live without X, Y, and Z. This was the essence of the monashram. And I was saying, to whatever extent we can do so, we should do the same tapas, engage in the same spiritual discipline, and know that one doesn't have to go to Surat to do it. One doesn't have to go to Ahmedabad to do it. We all have our own homes. It's like this idea of vanaprastha. A lot of us get scared when we hear this word vanaprastha. And we get scared because our scriptures have said, the day one sees the face of their first grandchild is the day one has to move into the forest. But now when we hear move into the forest, two things. Number one, we cannot move into the forest because we will never survive. Number two, it's probably illegal. You still have to pay taxes and so on and so forth. So vanaprastha happens here. That's where it happens. That I have to hibernate from that which is not necessary and engage in that which is necessary, which is my communion with the divine. Because I don't know how many more days, how many more hours, how many more minutes or seconds that I may be alive. Young people and old people both die. As one grows older, it becomes more definitive because the body is aging. This is the whole premise of vanaprastha. But in here, this word sannyasa is the last thought I'll offer, and then we'll continue tomorrow. The word sannyasa means, sannyasa and swami, I'll define both of them. Sannyasa means renunciation. Swami means master, like this person is my swami. Master of what? Master of the sense organs. You and I eat more when we are unhappy. When we are happy, we eat less. Which is why Guruji says, when the heart is full, the stomach is full. We already know that. Children know that best. Their mothers make them eat. Their mothers make them tired, and so on and so forth. Sannyasa, renounce. Renounce what? Sorrow is renounced. The real sannyasi is the one who's renounced sorrow. Which is why Ramakrishna Paramahansa said, the person who has body consciousness is a samsari. The person who doesn't have body consciousness is a sannyasi. It has nothing to do with their name and form. It is their essence. We're learning about the importance of a name. More important than the name is the essence behind the name. All of us are open to being such a master, if we choose to. It is the way that we think. So think well. Samskara, act well, but the way to act well is to think well. Hence, Anyana.
If you enjoyed what you heard or want to learn more, share this episode with a friend or find us online at facebook.com/cmniagara. For those on the journey of self-development, Chinmaya Mission Niagara provides a community forum for seekers to listen, reflect, and contemplate. This podcast is produced by the Young Adults of Chinmaya Mission, an international nonprofit working to transform individuals through the knowledge of Vedanta. Until next time, inspire, love, be.